All right. Okay. Yeah. It starts recording. Okay. So today we are going to talk about. Remember, this is the third session of this skill or writing skill. Know how to teach the writing skill. So today we are going to analyze. I'm going to give you some examples, and also you have in the material that you received now that you can read more carefully. So today we're going to talk about some activities that we could do in order to build the writing habit in our students. No? Here, for example, also we are going to talk about some aspects that we need to teach our students in order to develop their writing skills. No? So we are going to talk about the punctuation. No? Remember, when we write something, we must write it correctly. In order to do that, we are going to talk about the punctuation, the spelling, and any other aspect that is involved in the writing process. Okay, so here first, as all the sessions, as we do in all the sessions, so we are going to start with a fast review. No? This is what we start all the sessions. What we did the last class. Can you remember what we did the last class, the last session? Can you remember about it?
Yes, teacher. What is
Oh,
cohesion and coherence?
yes, that's it. What was the difference? No, first we were talking about some characteristics of a written test, no? The genres and the cohesion, coherence, some aspects in order to describe this test, no? And one of the aspects was related to, as here I'm going to show you, no? One of the aspects is related to the cohesion and coherence, no? So as you can see here, in order to describe a written test, so we are going to talk about the genre, the test construction, cohesion, coherence, and also the register, no? The kind of language that we are going to use. Then we talked about this important aspect, right? Can you remember about it? What was the difference between writing for learning and writing for writing?
Writing for writing makes better writers.
Exactly. All right. Writing for writing makes the students a better writer. No? What else? What else? Any other idea? Any other idea about this topic? Writing for learning versus writing for writing?
How can the students write?
Yeah, okay. But there are two kinds, not two kind of activities that we usually do in order to where students could write, no? So that's why we divided this in writing for learning and writing for writing. As your partner says, writing for writing, the focus of these kind of activities is to make our students be a better writer, no? And what about writing for learning?
Writing for learning
Mm-hmm.
makes you a knowledge about the grammar,
Mm-hmm.
maybe as a good teacher.
Yeah, yeah. Just you have here one of the points that is related to writing for learning. No, here the purpose of these kind of activities is that they are going to reinforce. No, they are going to reinforce some grammatical structures, some vocabulary items. No, so notice here we are going to talk about this in order to make a fast review. No, remember that we have these two: writing for writing. Writing that helps the students to become better writers and to learn, remember, how to write in various genres. And remember here, how to write in various genres using different registers. This is very important. I'm going to emphasize this. This is very important in writing for writing. So we are going to emphasize on this aspect. We are going to make our students write in various genres. So what is the meaning of genres? Different types of tests. No? To write a report, to write a summary, to write a letter, to write a poem, to write any kind of test. Notice this is what it says here, to write in various genres using different registers. So that kind of language that they are going to use in each different type of test. No, remember that we talked about this. No, if we have different type of tests, so it means that you have different test constructions, and it's obviously that you have to use a different register. As I told you before, no, it's not similar to write a letter to your friend, to your pal. You are going to write maybe to your boss or to your chief, no? To a person who has a higher charge in your institution, in your company. So maybe the structure, notice, maybe the composition, maybe the structure, the pattern of these tests are kind of similar, but the register, no. Maybe in the informal letter, you say, oh, hello, my friend, how are you? How's it going? But in the business letter or maybe in the company letter, so you're not going to say, hello, how are you, no? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, I'm pleased to write. And also you use another kind of language. Notice, maybe the structure, because both are letters, yeah? Both are letters, maybe the body of these kind of tests are similar. But now what is the difference? The register. So that's why here it says, no? When we talk about writing for writing, remember, we are going to teach our students, or we are going to make our students develop these different kind of tests, genres. Remember, genres is the different kind of tests. And also they need to identify the different registers, the different kind of language that they are going to use in these kind of tests. No? This is writing for writing. And writing for learning, what is the purpose of this? That it is going to encourage the students to focus more on the accurate language use. Notice, how is it different? All right? So it encourages, and the language use that they are going to write. No, provokes language development as they resolve problems which the writing puts into their minds. So it more focused on the language use, as I told you. So maybe you're going to use it as a reinforcement, no? About what you talked about the last class, about some grammatical aspect, or you're going to review some vocabulary items. Notice the differences between these kind of activities, because according to this purpose, you design your activity. You want to develop an activity which encourages them to be a better writer, or you develop activities to encourage them to be an effective user of the language. So notice here the difference, the purposes that we're going to give to our activities. No? All right, so, yeah, anybody, yes? Okay, yeah, don't forget please your microphones. All right, so notice here, yeah, this kind of difference when we talked about the writing for learning and writing for writing. Now, here also we saw some examples. No, here we are going to talk about an example lesson. Using this writing for writing procedures, remember, writing for writing procedures. What activities or what stages do we have to do in order to make our students be a better writer? Now remember, this is the writing for writing, no writing for learning, writing for writing procedures. So this is an example, right? So for example, here you have on the first stage of these kind of activities, Students first read a letter. So you show, notice, you show them the pattern, you show them the genre, and answer the following questions about it. Notice, so they are going to analyze that kind of information that they are going to write on this kind of test. You don't say, yeah, okay, now you're going to write a letter, this is the topic, and write it. No. So first you're going to give them a model, no? Like a model. And they are going to analyze the information. No? For example, here you have, where is Brenda writing from? How did she and Mariel get there? How did she feel when she first arrived? How does she feel now? What's the difference are there between Brenda's and Mariel's character? What is Brenda's job? What is Mariel's? Who is David? How formal, notice, now you're analyzing here the register. How formal is the letter? How do you know? Notice you're making your students to analyze the register, to analyze the information contained or exposed in this kind of written test. So they have here like a background, no? How they are going to write a letter and the language that they are going to use. Let's pass to the other one. No, this is a letter from the Writing Intermediate. No, this is a book from this author, Jeremy Harmer. Yeah, then notice that the students then discuss feature of an informal and friendly letter, such as where the sender's address is normally written and how the date is written. So you ask them to analyze, Notice, you ask them to analyze some aspects of the letter. For example, first, you ask them to analyze, to discuss some features, some characteristics. Remember, some characteristics. So it means that you're going to analyze the test construction, how they are going to construct these tests. So you tell them, for example, where the sender's address is normally written. Notice here, the position of this address, and how the date is written. Notice here. So then analyze some aspects about the construction of the test. Not just, for example, in the previous activity, in the previous one, they answered some questions related to the information, the message of this letter, and also a kind of register information. Now they are going to analyze the construction of this test. How does the address, the sender's address is written, or how the date is written, or maybe you could ask them, what is the first expression that they use to start the letter? What is the content of the first paragraph or the second paragraph? So you start making questions to your students in order to analyze the test construction. All right. Now let's see another one. Let's see the other is, oh, some of you are waiting. Okay, yeah. Yeah, now here, what is the teacher going to do? Students are then asked to choose either I, informal, F, formal, or N, neutral for the following letter phrases. Again, what are you asking your students to do? Can you tell me? What is the purpose of this activity? What is the purpose? For example, in the previous one, the purpose was to analyze the tense construction. What is the purpose of this activity?
This one, yeah, this one is to find out which one is informal and which one is formal.
So
or neutral.
yeah.
In the dialogue.
Oh, Betsy, I can hear you well.
Coherence in the dialogue.
Coherent.
Coherence in the dialogue.
Yeah. All right. But there is another purpose. Formal, informal, neutral.
Maybe recognize informal formal greetings.
Yeah, all right. But how do we call this aspect in general? When we talk about formality, if they use formal language or an informal language, how do you call that?
A dialogue.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you so well.
A conversation, teacher, or a dialogue.
Not exactly. Remember, these are phrases from the letter. Yeah, so the teacher took out some phrases from the letter and asked the students to analyze if these phrases are formal, informal, or neutral. They just need to recognize. They are not going to interact, create a conversation, no. So they just need to recognize if these phrases are formal or informal. So my question is, what is the purpose of the activity?
It can be a teacher that the student should recognize which phrases are formal and what phrases are informal. So in order to
It is neutral.
formal letter
Yeah.
or a
Yeah. Okay, yes.
formal letter.
Yeah, all right. Yes, you're right. But here, this is what they are going to do, no? This is what they are going to do. But what is the purpose? Remember.
Identify.
Identify what? What are they going to
Greetings
identify?
and farewells from a letter, from a formal letter.
Yeah, all right. So again, my question is, how do you call this? If they are going to identify if it is formal or informal, how do we call this aspect of a test, of a written test? How do we call
To
this
know
aspect?
if this activity is writing for writing or writing for learning.
Yeah, no,
It's
remember,
informal.
these procedures, these stages, these activities are for writing. Yeah, remember, I'm going to give you these ideas. When you say hello, how are you, in an informal letter, no, this is an informal letter, but when you are writing a formal letter, so you don't say hello and how are you. Why?
Depending on the person or the audience you're writing the letter.
Yes, all right. So it depends on the context, on the person you're writing to, right? Yeah, but why do we change this language? We are using different languages, no? Different kind of languages. So how do you call this different kind of languages according to the person or the context you're writing to?
It is informal.
Yeah, informal or formal, no? So we could use, remember, these two, formal or informal, yeah? It depends on us, no? It depends on the writing, on the person you're writing to. So we call this the general aspect. What is the aspect that the students are going to develop here? To identify the different registers. Remember, this is the purpose of this activity. The students are going to identify the different register. If we use a formal language or an informal language, this is the register. Remember, don't forget about it. The register is the kind of language that you're going to use according to the situation, according to the context. Now, so remember, we talked about this from speaking, also listening, no? So speaking more on speaking and writing, it's important that register the kind of language that you are going to use also in speaking, no? When you talk to your friend and you talk to your boss, you are not going to speak in the same way, right? So you are going to show some language that shows respect, right? The same happens when you write. When you write, you're not going to write the same on different kind of tests or different genres. Remember, if you change the type of test, you're going to change the test construction. Sometimes you're going to change the register. So the purpose of this activity is to develop in our students this ability to recognize what kind of language they are going to use when they write in different situations, all right? In different contexts. In other words, in different registers. Remember that, remember this word. So the purpose of this activity is to develop that, no? To analyze the register of this written test. No? And so they need to identify if the expressions are formal, informal, or neutral. And so notice, first we show them, yeah, remember, first we show them the test, the written test. They are going to identify some parts of the test, identify some information about the test, in this case, the letter. Then we made them to identify the kind of register that they are probably going to use, no? That they probably will use, all right? So this is the second stage. The third stage, having looked at feature of genre and register, notice the first and the second is related to the genre and register. The first activity, the first stage is related to the genre. The second stage is related to the register. Now, students put what they have discussed into practice. Teacher puts an invitation on the overhead projector. No, notice, this is an example. Yeah, put this invitation on the overhead projector. So now they are going to apply what they have analyzed before, what they have recognized before. Now they are going to put it into practice. So the teacher showed this invitation to the students. And now he asked them to write here two kind of tests. Notice, so the teacher shows the invitation and they are going to respond to this invitation writing a letter. Why do you have here these two columns? Do you have an idea? Why do we have these two boxes, yes and no? What is the purpose of these two columns, these two boxes, yes and no? Do you have an idea? Yes and no? What is the purpose?
Maybe yes for those guests who are going to go to this anniversary, and no for those who are not.
All right. So they are going to write two different kinds of letters, right? One, if you accept, and the second, if you don't accept. Notice here. So that's why the teachers writes on the board or maybe on a wall chart, cardboards, I don't know. You could use any other tools. Yeah? And they are going to write these letters. But notice here something interesting. Students start completing the letters in a collaborative way. They are not going to do it one by one personally, and also with the help of the teacher. So notice, they are going to start doing this test. Maybe you can divide it into groups and maybe you could give some wallpaper to your students, and they are going to write these two letters as a group. So yeah, first we're going to write a date, yeah, and maybe the teacher goes around each group and start checking, no? Oh yes, yeah, you didn't write so well the date, try to change it, or don't forget to write a date, no? Maybe some students, oh teacher, yeah, I forgot to write a date. Yeah, don't forget to start writing the introduction, the introductory phrase, no? So notice, they're going to write these tests in groups, as a group, not personally. That's why here says that they are going to complete the letters in a collaborative way, and also with the help of the teacher. No? So here you have an example of the student constructed board letters. No? So it means that the teacher asks students to write the letters on the board as a whole class. Notice, as a whole class. So they are answering, no, the invitation. They receive an invitation, and now they are writing a letter to a friend answering this invitation. If they accept, notice in the first one, he says, no, thank you very much for your invitation. I would love to come to your party. I look forward to seeing you on the 7th. So in the first one, they accept that invitation. But in the second one, notice here that they are not going to accept. No, thanks for your invitation, but I'm afraid I won't be able to come because I promised to go to my grandfather's birthday party. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I look forward to seeing you soon. Best regards, Rose. So the teacher could help, no? Could help the students maybe giving them some expressions in order to accept, or maybe the teacher pre-teach some expressions, no, before asking them to write these two letters. Maybe the teacher pre-teach some expressions, some phrases that they are going to use in order to accept or in order to refuse that invitation. But they are going to write, notice this is very important because most of the time when we talk about writing, yeah, writing, okay, so I'm going to give the test to my student, and they do it personally, no? They do it personally, okay? You have 17 minutes, now you have the example, yeah, you analyze the phrases, and please, everybody, write a letter, and they do it personally, right? We mostly do that, no? But here you have another way to make your students write, and it's in a collaborative way. So they, all of them give ideas. Okay, yeah, we are going to start with this expression. Thank you very much. First, we need to say thank you. Yeah, so they say, okay, teacher, yeah, thank you very much. Or thanks for your invitation. Notice that they are using different phrases. It's not the same phrase at the beginning, right? Then, yeah, now you're going to accept. I would love to come to your party. Now you have to refuse. Oh, yeah, teacher, but I'm afraid, no, I'm sorry, I can. Notice they are going to give some ideas and they are going to write these ideas on the board. Maybe you can ask one student start with writing the date. Another student write the other date. Yeah, okay, now go back to your seat. Now another student write the address. Maybe they forgot the address. Okay, what is missing? What is missing? Yeah, teacher, the address, the sender address. All right, volunteers to write the sender address. So they start writing the sender address. No? So notice, they are participating in this process of writing. It's not personally. So they are doing together, all right, in a collaborative way. So notice, this is the stage 4.
Teacher, maybe
Yeah.
is the correct form to answer the invitation or refuse that?
Again, please.
Maybe is the correct form to answer to accept the invitation or refuse the invitation? Is a
Yeah.
formal writing?
Yeah, but notice here you use mostly the informal way, no? It's not just the formal one, no? Because you're writing to a friend. Maybe if it is an invitation from a company, maybe you could use some other kind of language, no? Other register. Yeah, but the purpose here is to develop this test construction. Notice this test construction not in an isolated way, no? Yeah, one student, every student, no? Each student writes a letter to accept or to refuse, no? But here the example is giving us the idea to do it as a group. All right, and they can analyze no, the different test constructions or the different registers that they may use no, in order to write out a formal or informal letter. No? So now, students, the stage 5, students can be asked to look at a new letter with gaps in it. The students complete the test by adding one word for each gap. Teacher starts a discussion about the answers and then about the difference of the letters shown. Now here, notice this is a different letter. It's not just an informal letter. So you show this letter to your students and you have to ask to your students first to try to complete, no? Try to complete this test by adding one word for each gap. And then you start a discussion. You ask your students about the answers and then about the difference of the letters shown. No, remember that you have here, this is a formal one, but in the previous one, it was informal, no? This is the informal, and then you show them a formal letter. So you made it to differentiate. Notice they are going to differentiate some aspects of the language. No, okay, now notice what about the address? Notice here the difference. In the first letter, we have just one address. But in the second letter,
Teacher,
yeah?
I'm sorry, I'm not able to visualize what you're presenting. I'm
No,
not sure
no.
if it's only me or not.
Oh, okay. Everybody can watch what I'm showing? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Or maybe it's your connection. Try to re-enter again, please.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all right. Okay, yeah, please tell me. If you don't watch or you cannot listen to me, tell me, please. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. All right? Maybe it's my connection, and so I need to re-enter again. No? So don't be afraid of telling me that. All right, so notice that you have here, your students analyze the different structure, the different test construction, or the different register that they're going to use when they write an informal letter or a formal letter. So notice you show these two types of tests. No, this is a same genre, all right, because it's a letter. It's a letter, but you have different register. The first one is informal. The second one is formal. So it's the same genre, it's the same type of test because this is a letter. Both are letters, but one is the letter you write to your friend to accept an invitation to an anniversary party. But the second one, no. The second one is for a business journalist. Maybe it's a post, a job post, no? So you are going to send a letter or answer back a letter. So notice here the difference, no? You ask your students, okay, what are the differences between the first letter that we wrote and the second letter that you have here? So you are showing them these characteristics. No? Finally, students can write a letter for homework in response to an advertisement. So this is going to be the personal task. Notice, first, you made it to do to make this letter, to write this letter as a group. Then they analyze the letter, both letters, in order to recognize the different language or structures that you are going to use for each test. No? Remember, it's the same journal, but different register. And now they are going to write their own letter in response, no, to an advertisement. No? So here you have this advertisement. So they are going to write a letter maybe as a homework. No? Now you can give this as a homework because you have showed them the models, you have showed them the different kind of structures, you have showed them or analyzed the different kind of languages that they are going to use in order to write. And they do it as a group, not personally, so they can interact in the class. And so the activity is not so boring, notice, because if you say to your students, yeah, write it 10 minutes, 15 minutes to write it, it's a kind of boring, right? Because they don't interact each other. So you notice on the previous activities, the purpose is to make your students become a better writer, but at the same time to interact each other. So they can develop other skills too. Notice that they are going to develop other skills, not just writing. First, reading, right? The first activity they need to read in order to analyze the information, in order to recognize the different instructions. Then they are going to speak. They are going to interact because they are going to give their ideas in order to complete the letter. They're going to write it on the board. You change the students, so they are interacting, they are moving. They are thinking about the written purpose, no? Oh yeah, the purpose is to write a letter to my friend, to accept or refuse. On the second one, I'm going to write a letter to my boss, maybe, or to a company. So notice, they analyze the written purpose, why they are writing. So this is very important. So notice, these are the procedures that we could follow. Yeah, remember, this is just an example. It doesn't mean that you have to do the same no? Every stage, you know, because it depends on the students, the level of your students, how they behave, you know, so it involves many aspects. But this is as a tip, not as an example. How could you develop this writing for writing? Remember, we are developing here the writing for writing. This is not writing for learning, all right? This is not writing for learning. This is writing for writing because you are showing to your student different genres, no? Remember when we analyze these definitions, you are showing them or you are teaching your students how to write different test types, so different genres, and also to identify, recognize, or use different registers. You're not talking about here the past continuous or the present perfect, no? Or maybe the vocabulary that you're going to use, the adjectives, the adverbs. Maybe you focus on some vocabulary related to the phrases that you're going to use in the letter, but it's not exactly the vocabulary that you are talking about in the whole lesson, right? In the whole unit maybe, or in the whole project. No, it's a vocabulary specifically to talk about the kind of language, no? For example, here when the activity, when they have to recognize if the phrases are formal or informal, so they analyze some vocabulary, right? Doesn't mean that they are not going to talk about any vocabulary, no. So the purpose here is to analyze the vocabulary, but related to the kind of test that they are going to write. No vocabulary to talk about any other topic, no? For example, in the unit, you prepare a unit. Okay, the vocabulary in my unit is related to the environment. And you talk about pollution, maybe you talk about endangered species, no? But here, no, maybe you have some connection. Imagine that maybe you want your students to write a letter to NGO, no? An NGO, in order to ask for some help. No, this is a formal letter. Maybe you could reinforce some vocabulary, but the most important is to make your students to revise or to check up the vocabulary of phrases that they are going to use to write a letter. And also you can insert some vocabulary related to the topic that you are talking about in the whole unit, no? Because these kind of activities are related to a whole unit, no? They are not separated. No, so the whole unit is related to environment and my letter is related to fashion. I think that doesn't happen, right? So it must be a connection. There must be a connection between the listening, the writing, and the speaking skill. The topic of these activities are related to a general topic. So that's why here you can pre-teach some vocabulary related to environment, but the most important, remember, is to develop in our students the vocabulary that they are going to use to write this kind of test. That's why, as I told you, they recognize the phrases, no? They are formal or informal. They are going to use this, all right? They are going to use this vocabulary in order to write these kind of tests. So don't forget about this. Yeah, don't forget about this. This is the writing and writing procedures. So we have some steps, some stages. You could use it as a model. As I told you, it's not necessary to, yeah, the first one, I start with the reading, and then no, it depends on the context. No, it depends on you, the situation of the teaching and learning, on your students, the level of your students, no? So this is important, all right? Okay, let's continue. In order to write, remember, we are going to talk about some aspects. There is a mechanics of writing. When you have revised a piece of writing for its content, you are ready to check for its accuracy. Can you remember what is the meaning of accuracy? Accuracy.
It means exact.
Yeah, all right. Another one, exact. Accuracy. No. Any other idea about accuracy? Yeah, all right, it's related to perfect, yeah. Okay, so remember, accuracy is how well you write, no? You need to write correctly, yeah? How correctly you write. This is accuracy. So in order to be accurate, so you are going to develop some processes, no? You are going to edit, you are going to check the grammar, the spelling, the punctuation, and capitalization. So all of these aspects are related to the editing part, no? Remember that when we talk about the process, no? The process of the stages of the writing process, first we have the drafting, then we have the planning, no? First planning, drafting, editing or revising, then proofreading, and finally the final version. So when we talk about editing, the editing process, what are we going to do? We are going to revise or check up the mistakes, no? And when we talk about the mistakes, it means that we are going to talk about, or we are going to check up the grammar mistakes, or spelling mistakes, or punctuation mistakes, and also the capitalization mistakes. Notice we are going to do this part. We are going to analyze these aspects in the editing stage, right? Editing stage. So it's very important to do that. When you are going to teach how to write to your students, you need to teach them some aspects related to grammar, related to spelling, specifically punctuation and capitalization. So here it is involved the handwriting, the spelling, the punctuation, transitional expressions, and capitalization. Let's start with the handwriting. Sometimes it's a very complicated task, no, to make our students write well related to the handwriting, remember. So many English learners whose native language does not use the English alphabet have difficulty learning the alphabet and writing it. It's a kind of complicated way to write, no? Because we don't share the same alphabet, all right? we don't have some letters, for example, no? Or some letters are not used in some positions in Spanish, but you use it in English. So it's a kind of difficult, right? Getting used to upper lower case, for example, letters and where they are following the lines and the page can be problematic too. No, the upper and lower case, no, this is related to the capitalization. So how can we solve or face these kind of problems? First, we are going to make our students to recognize these aspects. No? Students must be able to recognize English letters before they can learn to write. For example, this is one of the examples. No? This is one of the examples. Letter string recognition. Yeah? So they are going to start recognizing, and notice this is from a very beginning level, no? The starter level. They are going to recognize, yeah, bed, B-E-D. Oh, yeah, B-E-D, B-E-D, B, okay, B-E-D. So the circle, no, this is at the beginning, no, the beginning. Met, okay, where is met? Met, oh, met. No, there is no met. So in the second one, there is no met. So there is no word. So they are going to recognize, notice, the English letter, the form of these words, how we are going to use the letters. All right, so this is one of the aspects, recognition. So another one is the teacher can draw letters or words in the air, which students have to identify. As I told you before, this is when you teach, for example, for little kids, not little children. They are starting to write, no, they are starting to write. So they are learning how to write in Spanish, but at the same time, how to write in English. So you could use these activities. So you can draw letters, no, words in the air, no? In the air, yeah, I'm going to write a letter. You have to tell me, which letter is this? Ah, teacher, this is letter B. B, so you draw letters on the air, no? So they need to recognize, remember, they are recognizing how to write the letters. Or you can students write a word on a fellow student's back or hand, which that student has to identify. No? Maybe you have used this activity before, no? Because this is very common. They are going to write on the back of the partner. And the student need to recognize, oh yeah, you are writing pen. No, it's not pen. Oh, you're writing love. Yes, that's it. This is the word. So notice they are recognizing, yeah, they are recognizing the letters. All right, this is the recognition. Okay, so you could use the air. You can draw the letters on the air, or you could use, no, the second one, you provoke the interaction between students, all right? Students interact. The teacher is not going to draw the letters. The students are going to draw the letters on each partner's back, all right? Or hand, notice that you could use the hand too, all right? So they start recognizing the letters that they are going to write. The other part is the production. So it involves learning the direction the writing goes and where to position writing on the lines. Then writing in cursive, not the way they are going to write. Oh, one person is coming. For example, here you have not join up words from Learn English Handwriting by Bernard Hartley and Peter Binney. So notice the direction that they are going to write, sometimes cursive, sometimes not cursive. So they are going to start writing. Remember, these activities is more for children, no? Little kids, that they are going to start writing, all right? That they are going to start writing because some of you teach to kids, no? kindergarten, primary, first level, second. So they are starting learning how to write in the mother tongue, and they need to do it now on the second language. All right, so here you have some activities in order to develop that. Oh, another one. Okay, yeah. Richard. Okay, Richard. You have another one, another idea. The students have 3 columns. In the left column, there is a list of words. The students read the left column, then they cover it and write the words in the middle column. Then they compare what they have written with the left column, and if necessary, write a word correctly in the right column. So notice they are starting producing. So you have 3 columns, remember, 3 columns. In the left column, you have a list of words. And you make your students to read that left column. Then you cover it, you cover the column, and write the words in the middle column. Now they have to compare what they have written in the middle column, so they have to remember, with the left column. And if necessary, write a word correctly in the right column. So you have the 3 columns. So they are going to compare, okay, yeah, you have these words, yeah? Check it out, yeah? So you have 1 minute. Okay, yeah. Now I'm going to cover it. Now try to write the words that you can remember. And they start writing. Okay, yeah. Oh, I forgot this with T, with P. Okay, you wrote it. No, the students wrote it. And then they have to compare. Oh, yeah, teacher, I forgot 1 letter. Yes. Oh, I made a mistake with 1 letter. It was not A, it was E. And they have to write on the 3rd column, the right column, what was the correct one. So notice here we're practicing the handwriting, all right, the letters that they are going to use to write. Okay, so this is another idea in order to practice the handwriting, but now they are not just recognizing it, they are writing the letters. Another one is students are given an alphabetical list of animals. They have to write the words in one of the 3 columns. So you place on the board, no? Pets, farms, or maybe wild animals. And they are going to write it. So then the teacher can ask questions, no? Related maybe to this topic or to another topic. Now remember that here you have those 2 activities. You have 3 columns. They're going to write words. They are going to write words for each column. And they start writing. Okay, teacher, lion. Oh, yeah, cat. This is the wild animal, lion. Then the farm animal, yeah, a cow. All right. Okay. So then you have here pets. All right, a dog, a cat. No? So here you can ask questions, no? What's the first day of the week? What pet starts with and ends with ta? When does a new year start? No, it depends on the vocabulary that you're using. And the students have to write 1 word answers. So notice here, you have this activity in order to create. Now you're not going to show. In the previous one, notice, in the previous one, you show them a list of words. Now you're not going to show them the words. They are going to remember, no? How they are going to write the words. All right, you just put here the headings and they start writing. And also you can ask some questions about it, no? In order to recognize the letters. No? The purpose here is to recognize and produce the letters of the written test, the letters that they're going to use to write a test. So this is the purpose. Now, let's pass to the other aspect of writing, the spelling. As you know, sometimes when we write a word in English, we say, oh yeah, this spelling is so tricky, so complicated. But here, if we analyze deeply, English spelling rules are relatively regular, but also we have some exceptions. No? Here we could find also homophones, no? So words that sound the same but are spelled differently. So this is a tricky situation, no? Toward students, teacher. Here you write E and you pronounce like E, but then in the other ones you pronounce like A. So some students says, oh yeah, the spelling is so complicated. No, it's so complicated. But remember, in English, we have some fixed structures, fixed pattern. Sometimes we have some exceptions too, no? So it's important also to teach our students, no? I think this is for more advanced level students, no? Because you're not going to teach them to kids or little kids, no? But it's important to teach them the prefixes and suffixes in order to create, remember, when you teach them the prefixes and suffixes, they are going to create words, no? It's beneficial because they are in multiple words. Happy, oh yeah, negative, unhappy. Yeah, now you are and happily. So notice you are making them to know the prefixes and suffixes that they are going to use to expand their vocabulary, right? Because they are going to expand using the prefixes and suffixes. So it's very important to teach our student this kind of prefixes and suffixes. One of the ways to practice the spelling or to teach spelling to our students is to use the reading practice. Could be silently or out loud, no? They are going to read and they are going to check the spelling of these words and also with the pronunciation of these words if it is a read out loud. So they are going to identify, oh yeah, this is the spelling, but you pronounce like this, no? So they identify the spelling, but also at the same time, they are recognizing the pronunciation of these words, no? These letters. The other one is identifying a sound in a written passage or oral word list. Notice a word list could be a passage, a written passage or oral word list. Again, so they are going to recognize the spelling and a relationship with the pronunciation. So they are going to identify, no? Okay, yeah, notice here. You write with ED, but you pronounce A. Oh, yeah. Bread. Ah, okay, bread. You write with EA, but you pronounce with the sound E. Notice they are going to recognize, no, they are going to identify. So they are going not just identify the sound, also they are going to recognize the spelling, no, the letters that we're going to use in order to pronounce that sound. Another idea is to put words in alphabetical order. No, maybe you made into practice a vocabulary related to environment or sports or fashion, and they have a group of words. No, they have a set of words. So yeah, now you're going to categorize. No, you are going to order. Sorry, you're going to order these words, but you are going to order it using the alphabet from A to Z. So they start recognizing, yeah, this start with A, B, C, and they start practicing the spelling too. Another idea is to give a list of words to your students and have them identify the spelling rule. Notice here one example. Yeah, here you have one example. So the exercise says, look at the following verbs in the infinitive and with a verb ending. Can you say when the final letter of the verb is double? and when it is not? No, most of the time we do that with our students, no? In order to make the double letter, no? When you're going to add maybe the ing, the ed, no? So the spelling rule says that when it finishes in a consonant, vowel plus consonant, you double the last consonant, right? So you can make your students to identify. Notice, you don't say it. You don't say it. You don't say the rule. You made them to identify. They are going to identify. Okay, my dear students, here you have a list. Please, can you say when the final letter of the verb is double and when it is not? So they are going to analyze. Clap, clapping. Commit, committed. Crawl, crawling. Hint, hint. Hit, hitting. So they are going to analyze. Oh yeah, clap, consonant, vowel, consonant. Yeah, you double the P and you add ing. The same happens in commit. Oh, it finishes in consonant, vowel, consonant, and you double the letter T and you add then ed. But in crawl, you have vowel, consonant, consonant. You don't add another L. Oh, yeah, teacher. Yeah, I think the rule is that you have consonant, vowel, consonant, and in the others, you don't have this final structure. So they are going to analyze by themselves. You're not going to teach them. No, okay, my dear students, today we're going to talk about the spelling rules when you're going to add ed or ing. Yeah, so here you have a verb. What is the final instruction? So you're giving them the information, right? So they need to discover by themselves, comparing, analyzing, or maybe you don't use a list of words. Maybe you give them a passage, a written test, an email, and you have some verbs here or some words here that you're going to use this spelling rule. So they are going to analyze it, to compare it. No? So this is just an idea to give a list, no? But you could use any other strategy or technique too. But the purpose is that they need to identify. They need to do it by themselves, all right? So here you have the spelling aspect. Another way to practice spelling is dictation, especially if the dictation contains words which exemplify certain spelling rules. For example, the students are given cards with letters written and they have to make words. The cards should not only have individual letters on them, for example, A, B, C, but also D grabs, so 3 grabs, or maybe a vowel plus consonant combinations. So for example, here you have this, no? Yeah, you show them some cards, notice, you showed in some cards with a combination of letters, not just individual, a combination of letters. So they can identify, no? They can identify the spelling, and also here you can practice the handwriting too, no? Because they are going to identify some clusters, which consonants go together, no? Specifically in English, no? For example, there is a structure that we find in English when we write and also when we pronounce, note that a cluster of consonant letter or sounds appear at the beginning. For example, we have the s, ta, or s, t, r. This structure, this combination of letters, we don't have it in our language, right? Or do we have any word in Spanish that starts with the letter STR or that sounds star? Is there any word in Spanish that start with this structure, with this group of letters? No, right? So we don't have these kind of combinations. Notice, we don't have these kind of combinations. So if we give our students these cards with this combination of letters, So they are acquiring. Oh, yeah, notice here. In English, we have these two letters together, GH. But in Spanish, we don't have this kind of combination, right? Yeah, GH. And then maybe you put another combination, OST. Ah, the word ghost. So notice they are practicing the spelling, how to write a word, but they are identifying. Notice they are identifying this combination, this way of writing the words. So this is very important. I usually do this activity for when I taught, no? Because nowadays I'm not teaching a primary or kindergarten. Nowadays I'm teaching secondary and university. But when I taught a primary, and there was once that I taught a kindergarten, I use these kind of cards and I separated them in groups. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna give you these cards. The group which makes most words is the winner. Oof, and they start, yeah, okay, yeah, these letters, okay, yeah, this is the word. Yeah, they start combining. And then they have as a competition, they have fun, and they start, here, you're practicing here the spelling. All right, you're practice here the spelling. So the student, oh yes, teacher, I remember that word. We made this word in the activity. Yeah, and they start writing. They can remember, no? Yeah, I wrote this word. Yeah, yes, in my group, we created this word. So they can do this better, no? When they are going to write, they can do this better. All right. Another could be the secret code games. Each letter is given a number and students write each other letters using the number. This is another one, right? So the secret code games. Now this is like a game. So you give to your student a letter, no, with a definite number, and students write each other letters using the number. Oh yeah, what was your letter? Yeah, number one, yeah, number one, number three. Oh yeah, this was letter C, and this is letter H, yeah, CH. Yeah, okay, then four. Oh, choose. Yeah, SE, number three or five. So they are going to identify, Notice they are going to identify the letters, no? How you write the words, but you also use the numbers, no? And they are going to recognize. That's why here says secret codes, no? Secret codes. The other one is the spelling backwards. But I think you can do this not on little kids or children. I think you could use this on teenagers because it's a tricky one because they have to spell the word back. So that's why here says spelling backwards. And a student race to figure out what the word is. Yeah, so for example, no, you separate it in groups. Yeah, one volunteer. Okay, one volunteer, all right. And you show the word to the student, but the other members of the group are not going to watch it. Just the person who is volunteer and who is in front of the board, no, on the class, sorry. So you show the word. Yeah, now you have to spell it, but backwards. For example, the word library. Yeah, RARBIL. Ah, so student, yet I used this activity once, and it was so tricky for the student who says the spelling backwards, and also it was so complicated for the other members of the group to identify why you're not used to spelling on this way, right? The normal spelling is, yeah, how do you spell apple? You say A-P-P-L-E. No, this is the most common way. No, you practice spelling too, but notice this is another way, no? A tricky one, no? So as I told you, here you could use this activity with teenagers, no? Maybe with young teenagers, all right? But for children, little kids, no. It's so complicated. It's so complicated, but it's funny. It's so funny. All right, so this is another one, spelling backwards. I don't know if you have ever used it before, but I'd advise you to use it. Yeah, the other one is teaching punctuation. To teach your students to use correct punctuation from the beginning. This is very important. From the beginning. Oh no, teacher, my students are little kids. Or maybe they are in primary. No, I'm going to get confused with this kind of punctuation, no? The capitalization, the periods, commas, colons, hyphens, question marks. No, for example, there is a big difference between the question marks that we use in our language and the question marks that we use in English, no? Also the exclamation marks, no? We use in English just at the end. But in our language, we use at the beginning or at the end. So there is a big difference, right? And some of the students forget, oh yeah, oh, and they wrote both sides. No, they wrote the marks of both sides at the beginning and at the end. But remember that we use this exclamation or question marks just at the end. No? Have students identified what punctuation is being used in a passage and why? This is so important. Also here you have this chart, no? This is a chart related to punctuation, no? Use a period at the end of a declarative sentence or in abbreviations. Question mark, use a question mark after an interrogative sentence. Quotation marks, use quotation marks for direct quotations. Apostrophe, use an apostrophe in contractions and to indicate possession. Comma, use a comma to separate items in a series, to set off a positive or before the conjunction in a compound sentence. Hyphen, use a hyphen to join words serving as a single adjective before a noun in numbered words and to divide words into syllables. Notice, here you can give this chart to your students. No, maybe you can stick it on the wall. No, they could see when they are going to write. So please be careful, take into account the punctuation. Yeah, you can watch the wall chart on the wall so they could see it. Some activities that we could do to our students in order to practice punctuation. And this is one of the most common, right? This is one of the most common. So we give a passage, a test to our student with no punctuation, and the students need to write a punctuation. Here, for example, no? They arrived in Cambridge at 1 o'clock in the morning. It was cold with a bright moon, making the river come silver. Andrew ran to the water's edge, Angela hurrying to keep up with him. Notice there is no punctuation at all. So the students need to to correct these tests, no, these tests, by putting the correct punctuation. Oh, they teacher, just at the beginning, you start with a capital letter. Cambridge is a noun, a proper noun, so you need to write with a capital letter too, no? At 1 o'clock in the morning, a comma, a period. So they start complete, and you can do it as a group. No, not personally. You can show this on the board, and yeah, volunteers, any volunteer. For example, I do that. I present this test on the board, and volunteers, yeah, write one punctuation. Yeah, okay, teacher, yeah, the letter T here, yeah, they, yeah, another one, yeah, any other volunteer, yeah, C, the letter C, capital letter, yeah, come here, write it, and they start participating. Notice, they start participating and they are starting identifying the correct punctuation in a test. All right, so this is so important to do. Another way could be that you could give to your students a list of words, some capitalized and others not. Have students identify which are capitalized and why. So here you have this list, no? Anita, Anne, Apple, April, Argentina, Art, Australian, Andrew, Act, at, in, island, as, island. So notice here you have this group of words. Some of them are capitalized, another not, no? So they need to identify, yeah, Anita, why is the first letter capitalized of the word Anita? So students say, oh, teacher, yeah, it's a proper noun, no? Anita is a name. So you need to write this word with a capital letter at the beginning. And, oh, and, yeah, and is a conjunction. It's a function word. It's mostly written with a small letter, not with capital letter. And notice, they are going to start analyzing. You don't say, you don't say it. So they say it, all right? April, yeah, it's a month of the year. It's another proper noun. So they start talking. They start talking and giving some ideas. And you're practicing here the capitalization. Capitalization. Another one is the copying. Here you use this activity in order to practice writing. These guys were copying. So we may give students a list of words, yeah, randomly organized, which they then have to rewrite in alphabetical order, or we can also give them sentences which they have to write in appropriate boxes or columns. For example, now this is related to writing. Yeah, this is related to writing. So write the following sentences about mobile on cellular phones in the correct columns. So you give them sentences, all right? You give them some sentences and they are going to classify, notice, they are going to classify these sentences into an appropriate category or column or box, no? So the purpose of this writing, notice, the purpose of this writing is to talk about, to write about cell phones, no? Cellular, mobile phones. And they are going to give their opinions, no? Related to mobile phones are good. So good points about the cell phones or mobile phones and the bad points, no? The bad side of using cell phones or mobile phones. No, mobile phones are bad. So they are going to categorize. Again, you can do this activity as a whole class, yeah, as a whole class. So they are going to write on the board, notice, they're going to write on the board, okay, yeah, which sentences related to the category of mobile phones are good? Ah, yeah, teacher, yeah, this is it, yeah, come here to the board and write it. They are very useful. Okay, that's good. And what about the second column? Mobile phones are bad. Okay, yeah, they are horrible or they are bad for your health. Yeah, come here, write it. So they start writing, no? But they are just copying. Notice the purpose here is to identify, not to classify. Then they are going to produce their own sentence. This is as an starting activity, no? In order to introduce that topic of the speaking skill, of the writing skill, no? Remember that we could also use this writing skill as part, no? Remember that when we talk about these activities as a part of the whole activity or as a starting activity previous to another one. So you could use this kind of activity, copying, no? They are going to classify as an starting activity, no? Before another speaking or listening or maybe reading skill. No? Another one related to copying is the whisper game. So we use this activity mostly on speaking. No, when you whisper to some words or some sentence to your partner, and this partner is going to whisper again to another one, then to another one, and finally you get to the last student and you have to say the sentence. And the sentence most of the time is not the same as the original one, no? So this is a whisper. So here you can use it also to practice writing. So students line up and first student is giving a sentence. They take a minute to study the sentence and spelling. Then try and write it down from memory. Notice, now they are not going to say it. Now they are going to write it on a piece of paper, no? You give to your students some pieces of paper. So the first student, you show the paper to your student. Maybe you give them the 10 seconds, no? or 20 seconds to memorize it, and they start writing the sentence with a correct punctuation. So you have to say that they need to write the sentence correctly with the correct capitalization, the correct punctuation, no? So they need to write this. And they write, no? Write it down from memory and repeat until the sentence passes through each student. And then you're going to get the results, no? The final paper. Yeah, okay, now this is the original one. Now, this is the result. How similar are they? No, they start coming, oh, teacher, we forgot to write the capital letter in some words, or maybe you forgot to write a comma, no, and so on. Notice, you're using this in order to recognize these aspects, no? Punctuation, spelling, handwriting, and you're using this kind of activity to practice that, not just for speaking, notice, not just for speaking. You could use it for writing too. Now, let's pass to another aspect when we write a test. Now, when we write a test, when we write something, first we're going to write sentences, then paragraphs, and finally the test. No? This is the final result, the test. But first we're going to write sentences. So we are going to see here some activities, how we are going to encourage students to write sentences. One of them is the parallel writing. So the sentence production, let's see it. Students are given one or two model sentences and they have to write similar sentences based on information they are given or on their own thoughts. For example, students are giving information about a particular character. They then see how this information can be combined into sentences using these conjunctions, these connectors, and but. And then they have to write similar sentences about themselves. Notice this is a parallel writing, and they are producing sentences. But they are going to produce sentences given, based on a model, because you have to give them some model sentences. And they have to write similar sentences based on information they are given or using their own ideas or their own thoughts. But here you can reinforce also the cohesion, because they are going to use some connectors, right? And but. So in order to write their own sentences, they need to use an or but, similar to the example sentences that you give to them, that you gave to them. So this is called parallel writing, right? For example, here you have, look at the following information about Carlos, likes and dislikes, and read the sentences which follow. Carlos, music, hip hop, classical music, sport, football, tennis, entertainment, films and clubs, food, spicy food and raw fish. Notice that you have a check and X, no? The check means that he likes, the X that he doesn't like. So now the sentences, notice this is the model sentences, all right? This is the model sentences. How they are going to write their own sentences. They are going to write similar sentences like this. He likes hip hop, but he doesn't like classical music. Notice, so they are using but, not the connector. He likes hip hop, but he doesn't like classical music. He likes football and tennis. He likes watching films and going out to clubs. He likes spicy food, but he doesn't like raw fish. Now, what are they going to do? Write similar sentences saying what music, sport, entertainment, and food you like. Use and but. Okay? Notice they are going to produce sentences in a guided way. This is called a guided activity, because they are going to receive some models, some structures, and they are going to use these structures to write a similar one, right? So this is a guided activity. So Here you have these models and they are going to write similar sentences, but talking about him or her. So they are going to say what music, what sport, what entertainment, and what food they like. And they are going to connect their sentences using an and but. And also here you can increase the recognition of these connectors. Okay, so can you tell me when do we use and when do we use but? So you don't say it, notice, you don't say it. Okay, teacher, yeah, remember you use and to connect to similar ideas, but to connect to opposite ideas. No, so you ask them to identify. Okay, now you have the models. Now you have to write similar sentences, but can you tell me what is the difference using and using but? Oh, teacher, yes. And when you have two positive, no? For example, sports, he likes football and he likes tennis. So you use and to connect these two positive ones. But the other one is positive, the other is negative. Yeah, and you use but. And notice they are going to identify, right? They are going to identify the use of these connectors. And they are going to start writing. Pair sentences. The teacher asks students to look at how pronouns are used in a test and then gets them to write pairs of sentences in which they use pronouns in the same way based on information they are given. For example, here you have this test, and notice this is a model test. So they are going to read this test, and they are going to identify some pronouns, no? Some pronouns. Okay, tell me, which pronouns can you see? Oh yeah, teacher, he, we, they. And you are going to ask, yeah, he is referring to what? Oh yeah, he is referring to Andrew. All right, they is referring to what? Oh yeah, the people, all right. Yeah, so notice, you are making it to identify this cohesive device, no? That is reference. You are practicing here in reference. Now, they are asked to say who or what the word he or she, so it, so him, they refer to in the test. So this is what I told you on how they know it. They discuss the role of pronouns and possessive in avoiding repetition and in creating cohesion. They then complete the following exercise. No? So they have to read the notes about the round world judge woman Ellen MacArthur and write pairs of sentences. Notice they're going to write pairs of sentences for the two ideas in each bullet point. The second sentence should start with she, her, he, his, it, or they. So notice here, save a school dinner money for 3 years to buy a small boat and 8-foot dinghy. So here you have two, right? Two ideas. So they are going to write pairs of sentences with these two ideas. And the second sentence, notice, you are making it to use the reference. The second sentence must start or should start with she, her, he, his, it, or they. So they start writing sentences like this. Ellen MacArthur saved her dinner money to buy a boat. It was, notice, it was an 8-foot dinghy. So instead of repeating a boat or the boat, no? So they write it. So that was the purpose of this exercise, no? That the second sentence should start with she, her, he, his, it, or they. And they are going to write this pair of sentence, no? That's why we call this activity pair sentence. And we are talking about here, we are emphasizing the cohesive device of reference, no? Not to repeat, not to avoid repetition. Paragraph construction. This example employs a substitution drill style of procedure to encourage students to write a paragraph which is almost identical to one they have just read. This is like a substitution drill in the new vocabulary is used within a set pattern or patterns. For example, here, students read the following paragraph. No? Read the following paragraph. Oh, William Shakespeare is England's most famous playwright. He was born in Stratford-on-Avon in 1564. No? So we start reading this paragraph. Now, when they haven't understood the information about Shakespeare, students are given the following table of information and asked to write a similar paragraph about Jane Austen. So you give the model, and notice, you give the model, and now they are going to use this information on the table, and they are going to write a short biography. If you notice, you are making your students to write a biography, but you are using here this paragraph construction. So they have the model, and similar to the model, now they have to write their own test, but now they are going to write this short biography related to another person, right? To Jane Austen. Remember, they are referring to Jane Austen. So notice, you are practicing here the paragraph construction, not just sentences. In the previous activities, you practice the sentences. Now, paragraphs, but you're giving them some models in order to follow, and they are going to substitute. Notice, that's why here you say substitution drilling, because they are going to substitute some information, no? For example, here on this test, William Shakespeare is England's most famous playwright. No, they're going to say William Shakespeare. No, so Jane Austen is one of the English most famous writers. Playwright, writers. So they are going to replace, they are going to replace, they are going to substitute these words, no, in order to write a short biography. So you give them the model, and they are going to write a similar one by substituting, no? They are going to substitute this information to the other one, all right? So here you have this activity. Now the control or test construction. This is more specifically for intermediate students. Now the logical organization of ideas, coherence, applies not just to paragraphs, but to whole tests as well. In this example, the students focus on the journal report writing. Notice, this is the focus of the activity, to identify the journal, a report. They are going to write a report. In activity 1, they work out the appropriate sequence for a report's 5 elements. This raises their awareness about typical organization for such a report. In activity 2, they look at a particular language issue, linking words before moving on to stages 1 and 3 to write a similar report to one they first put in sequence. Notice, first you show them, I don't know if you can see it clearly. Yeah, first you show them the construction of the test, but it's not organized. So you ask them to organize this structure, this composition of the test. So you're here making them to identify the genre, the test construction. Then you're giving them to identify, you're having them to identify the linkers, no? Find here the suitable linkers. I think it's not so clear here, but you have this, this example on your material, yeah, your handout. And then they start writing, no? Stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 to write a similar report to the one they first put in sequence. Notice, they are going to start writing not just paragraphs, now test. Notice here the different aspects that we could practice with our students, no? First with the sentences, then with the paragraphs, and finally we finish with the test itself. All right, so here we're going to stop. That next session, we are going to continue talking about activities. Remember, these two sessions are related to activities. For example, next class, we are going to talk about journal reports and any other kind of activities to encourage fluency on writing, and also how to respond. That next session, we are going to talk about how to respond to our writing, to our students' writing. All right, so how we are going to respond to these kind of writings, okay? So we are going to stop here. That's all for today. It was a pleasure to be with you again. Thanks for your attention. Yeah, thanks for your attention, and take care a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye-bye. See you
Thanks.
next Saturday.
See you next.
Bye-bye, teacher.
See you next
Bye.
Saturday.
Please,
Bye-bye.
teacher,
See you next
next
week.
Saturday.
A question,
Bye-bye.
please.
Goodbye, teacher.
Bye-bye. See you. Take care a lot.
Take care, Elizabeth. Teacher, what about the homeworks?
Yeah, so you have to complete, remember it's on the platform. Then I'm gonna give you the list. I forgot to give you the list. Who gave me the homework? Yeah, but don't worry, I'm checking out the homeworks. Some of you didn't give me the homework. Please don't forget. Yeah, don't forget to upload your homeworks. And they're not so difficult. Yeah? But I'm gonna give you the list in next class. I'm going to give you this which student or who completed the task. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right.
Teacher, I did all my homework, but I'm not sure if you received all them because I
Yeah.
don't know how to send you.
Yeah.
But the manager, I don't know, told me
Yeah.
that it's okay, it's complete,
Mhm.
no, in my case. But I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna show you next class this if you are giving the task or not. Right.
Okay, okay, teacher, thank
All
you.
right. Okay. Don't
See
worry. All
you,
right.
see
Bye
you, see
bye.
you,
See
teacher.
you. Bye
Bye bye.
bye.